every year, I mean, not every year, but every event, we're able to pull in some really, really experienced, passion, impact driven, from mentors to experts and people who are just thought leaders in the community to really, help us with the event, give some expert advice to the founders. And today we have the one and only John Harthorne, founder of Two Lantern Venture Partners and also founder of everyone knows MassChallenge.
Yay, well, I'm gonna put you right into the big screen there, John. Thank you, John.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. What an honor. It's so great to be here. And congratulations on 3 years. What a great impact you guys have had. Amazing rapport you've built together, helping so many founders. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to join you guys tonight and help to profile a couple more great founders. And I would also throw a shout out to First Republic, which is my bank also. So I know and love them, and I can vouch for them both through the fund and as a person. So kudos and thanks to First Republic. I heard that Rob may actually beatbox for us later. I don't know. We'll see if we can coax him into it. So that's something that they're all trained well in, I believe.
That's wonderful. And folks tuning in, you have to understand this man here is just we have a warm place in our hearts for this man, because back in 2010 in our fair city, maybe a little sooner, I don't know, you can give us more in the dates. You talk about impact. You created a platform, a not-for-profit organization that has had a huge impact on founders and those who serve founders and the mentors of the founders. I mean, you brought community together in a way that not only served them with their mission and their vision, but their pocketbooks too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let me paint the picture here, because I'm very familiar with MassChallenge. 3,000 startups accelerated so far, and this is globally, folks. This is not just Boston, Israel, Mexico City, Switzerland. They're all over the place. $8.6 billion in funding raised by these startups, $3.5 billion in revenues generated. And this is my favorite metric of all, almost 186 plus jobs created in all these ecosystems.
186,000.
Yeah, 186,000.
Correct. 186,000. That's amazing. The impact that MassChallenge has provided to all these ecosystems is just, amazing. And I look at it, as I'm thinking about this tonight, I see some parallels between what occurred when, John, you started MassChallenge back in 2009 during the financial crisis, and what the world is experiencing now with the pandemic. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of parallels here. So can you walk us through how you started in this, on this mission and with MassChallenge, and where you were able to?
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you guys so much. And it's so humbling, and I'm very proud and excited about the impact that MassChallenge has had. And thank you guys for teeing that up. It was, in fact, the idea occurred in December of 2008. And that was shortly after Lehman Brothers collapsed. It was the sharpest downward part of that economic collapse. We didn't know where the bottom was. People were talking about the next Great Depression, 10 years of loss and stagnation, maybe, Dust Bowl breadline type conditions. It was really a scary, scary time. I think a worse, sharper drop than what we saw even in COVID, just devastating unemployment, real fear. And I was at Bain & Company as a consultant, where I did not want to be. I wanted to be a startup. I wanted to be a founder and launch a startup. But it was so difficult in that climate to try. I couldn't imagine raising money, couldn't imagine launching something. And I thought, this is terrible. We need startups more than ever to create jobs and growth and optimism and hope and wealth, and to solve problems in society. That's what startups are best at and what they're for. And I thought, this is terrible that it's so hard to launch them when we need them. Somebody's got to fix that. And then I kind of, half fell asleep and woke up with this adrenaline shot to the heart realization, this classic founder epiphany, that I'm somebody. Why don't I do that? And that will be my startup. And I'll launch. So MassChallenge was that kind of spark of inspiration, leading back to what part of your guys' mission is this inspiration, this realization that we can have an impact and we can help others to bring forward the best ideas and then help connect them with the resources they need to launch and be successful. And we launched the first program in 2010. We spent 2009 planning it, fundraising, building the team and the advisors out. First competition 2010 in Boston, gradually expanding into Israel. We had a program in London briefly for a few years that was very successful, tougher place to fundraise. We're now 9 programs in 7 cities and 4 countries. And as you noted, all the great stats, about 3,000 startups accelerated. So super proud. And I would say this, only works because of the great community, right? It was an idea. I brought it to people. It was kind of stupid in a bunch of ways at the beginning, and people helped to correct the mistakes in my pitch and my planning. And thousands of people contributed their time, their money, their advice, their insight. Thousands of startups entered and participated and helped each other. And it created this great flywheel effect, which is, I think, so emblematic of the great community in Boston and elsewhere around the world. So I'm very grateful to everybody for all of that.
Well, kudos for you for creating that community and getting folks, galvanizing folks behind your mission. And of course, we should have a meme, founders, right? I'm going to go solve that problem. Why not me, right? That's every founder's story. I love that. And I know, AJ, you were specifically impacted by MassChallenge.
Yeah, I mean, this was back in 2016 when my co-founder and I were launching our own startup, Pulse. We were part of a specific cohort at MassChallenge that was sponsored by the Boston Foundation for local Boston area founders. And, you know, I got to tell you this, fast forward almost 5 years later, you know, we've scaled a bit. We now have 20 people employed. We could not have done that without the mentorship and the guidance and the community that we took advantage of at MassChallenge. So, you know, you should share in our success. I'll definitely send you some updates personally, but thanks to your mission and what you were able to launch, I could not be where I am without
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that. And the Boston Foundation has been a great partner as well. They're a wonderful organization. So, and I'm glad they helped us to create that program and you know, our overall operations and stuff. So just really spectacular. Great.
So AJ, I'm going to bring in our founders. We're going to do a little round table. You good with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to add Ning to the stream. We're going to add Mile to the screen and the stream. And there is John. And I know Lewis is going to be coming in. There he is.
Oh.
You know, it's not every day we get to be with a local startup celebrity who's got a great brain from which we can ask some great questions. How would you like to begin, AJ?
Yeah, let's go with Miles first, and then we'll go over to John, and then Lewis, and then Ning.
Okay, so I've got Miles' question down here. Wait for it. We'll bring it up as a big banner. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
So my question relates a lot more about consumer brand specifically, because sometimes it works so well to just use the founder, owner, or ourselves as the very main face of a consumer brand, but sometimes it doesn't. I just wanted to hear your comments on the reasons for that, of what would work and what would not work, or your further comments on that.
It's a really great question, and I think this is tricky. So we had a discussion around this at MassChallenge as well, and I've seen it in dozens and even hundreds of startups. So if the founder is in particular already a celebrity, already very famous, right? If
so easy.
Tom Brady is part of your founding team, then he is going to be the face of by virtue of his fame and charisma. So if there's and even if they aren't a super celebrity, if they're deeply charismatic and are really the core ideator behind the brand, the main passion that drives it, then it can work in those scenarios, especially if they really enjoy the limelight and that's part of what they're really excellent at. But there's a lot of risks. Even if they're good at it, they could have an accident and be out of commission. They could get sick. They could decide to switch and do a different kind of company. There are scandals. We've had some founders involved in various scandals. They have mental breakdowns, can't handle the stress or pressure, and then that can completely destroy the company if you're overly reliant upon one face. So in general, I would say, unless there's a really clear advantage, like significant celebrity status, it's my general take to be a little bit cautious about making the founder too central. And we were very careful at MassChallenge, even though I was pretty central to the original idea and was out pitching it all the time. I did not want it to have my name in the brand or be the sole face of it. And we made a lot of effort to make sure we got lots of other folks there representing the brand.
Oh, wait, I got to put Louis, I'm just going to mute your mic there. Cool. Okay.
I don't know. I hope that answered your question, Mild. I think.
Yes, thank you so much.
Such a good question, Mild, especially about the brand. It should always be about the product and the brand. And boy, when you can remove that person from it. I'm just going to throw John's up here next. Okay, John, go for it.
Sure. So, John, what is the most important quality you look for in a founder once your team feels that the startup meets your investment thesis?
This is great. And so this is, in particular, I'm going to answer this. Well, I'll answer for both parts. So from a MassChallenge perspective first, and then now I'm running a venture fund. So in terms of investment is slightly different, but related. The main thing I really look for is I want to see intense passion, commitment, persistence, this kind of bias to action. There's Desh Deshpande has said it very well in the past, that there are sort of three kinds of people in the world. Somebody who sees a problem and complains about it and says like, oh, this is terrible, this is despicable, look at this, dirty road, or the bus is late, or whatever the problem is, and they complain and blame others. There's people who see it and are just oblivious and move on around their life and don't even barely notice it, et cetera. And then there's those that see it and feel obligated to fix it and take care of it. And that's the entrepreneur. That's the natural inclination to want to improve and resolve problems. And so I want to see that energy, that spark, that they really care deeply about the impact that they're trying to create, because it's really hard. It doesn't matter how solid your plan is, how great your team is, how good your timing is, how much funding you have, how much traction you've got. It's going to be extremely difficult. And there's going to be numerous ups and downs and very difficult cycles. So if you don't really care, you're going to quit. Like it's not worth it. You'll give up. So I want to see that unreasonable attachment to the outcome of the startup, which expresses itself as deep perseverance. There's a self-awareness as well, a willingness to listen to feedback. It doesn't have to be a blunt, stupid arrogance, but it's about a real drive and a desire to just solve the problem. That's the number one thing that I look for in founders. And that's both in investing as well as in for MassChallenge. Just in general, that's what drives success.
Thank you. And just to talk about MassChallenge, my co-founder went through MassChallenge and he just raves about it. So as an unbiased person, I mean, it's such a great program. And I mean, I see it on him, all the learnings that he now has at having gone through that program.
That's great.
That's so great. And I just love unreasonable attachment to the outcome. So good. Ning, do you have a question for John?
Yeah, of course. I have one question. So every time when we talk to investors, the most common frequent question we are asked is, do you have attraction? Because that's a proof of concept. So I'm wondering, like during your past career in MassChallenge or as an investor, have you ever invested in a founder or team? Individual founder without a team, without a product, but just a story. So in what scenario will you invest in such a founder, and why is that?
Yeah. So also great question. And I think, of course, traction is kind of like, market traction is the best evidence that you're onto something and that you're capable of executing and that it's worth looking at very closely and potentially investing in. So traction is outstanding. There's lots of people that can tell fantastic stories, but can't execute and get stuff done. And at the end of the day, that's not worth very much. So traction is great. That said, at the very early stages in a pre-seed company, it's very difficult to have real meaningful traction. It's early, and you probably haven't figured out the business model yet. You probably don't even know exactly who your customers are. It's not fully refined. So you can't always rely on people to have lots of traction. We have invested at Two Lanterns in companies that have limited traction or very little traction. And I know from when we were launching MassChallenge, having to pitch for money and advisors and team members when you don't have anything, when nobody's ever heard of the brand, you're a nobody, just one or two people. We were using a mirror as a whiteboard because we didn't have an office space. We didn't really have a name worked out. The idea was crazy sounding. So it's really tricky. And I think what you can do that counts as traction is to just demonstrate real passion and commitment to the cause, the ability to clearly articulate what your goals are and the impact that you want to create, and to do that with energy. And then to demonstrate that you're getting meetings, right? Even we used to say, like, I'm meeting next week with Microsoft, right? They haven't committed to anything. They don't know. I'm funding from them. I don't have an advice. They're not advising me or anything, but I'm just saying they took a meeting. I got a meeting with Microsoft. Somebody from the governor's team is having a phone call with us in 2 weeks. Right? Oh, wow, with the governor's team. So it sort of like puffs you up a little bit bigger than you are. You can't lie. That's very important, because if you get, A, it's just unethical and wrong. But B, if you get caught in a lie, you will be immediately turned, like, people will not work with you. It's not acceptable. So you can't lie, but you can spin positively. And that is using minor amounts of leverage or minor amounts of accomplishment and kind of puffing them up a little bit bigger. So we would do that a lot, just listing off people that took meetings. We sent off 75 emails this morning. We've already gotten 15 replies. Like, those are small accomplishments, but they're meaningful at that stage. And it shows people that you're driven to action. You care about results. You're getting early traction with some people. Even like, I got a co-founder, or we got somebody to agree to be an intern for free. We registered the website URL. We got our email set up. Even that stuff at the very beginning is something. So leverage the little teeny bits. And then you can outline, here's what I'm going to do next, right? So, I'm here to raise funding because I'm not done yet, right? If I was totally done and had all the traction in the world, I wouldn't need your money. But here's what I'm going to use your money for. I'm going to get 100,000 users on the platform. I'm going to hire 4 more people. I'm going to get my customer acquisition costs down to 1/5 of what it is today, whatever. So you can lay out those metrics. That is really compelling. And we invest early stage, pre-seed, seed, Series A. So pre-seed, for sure, there's not that much traction. We're riding on little bits of traction here and there, and then what they're saying is coming next. How compelling that is, their background, their history of accomplishment, all of those things kind of help.
Yep, makes sense. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Louis, you're up next. I'm going to unmute you. Have you got a question?
Yes, I do actually. What's your perspective on mindset? How do you feel that mindset, in relation to an entrepreneur? How big a role does having the right mindset plays?
I think it's the most important element. Absolutely, it is hands down the most important element. And there's a lot of characteristics to that mindset. One I've already mentioned is just being really driven, results oriented. I think a bias to action is very positive. A lot of startups die on the whiteboard, right? There's no way you're going to perfect it on the whiteboard. Doesn't matter how smart you are, how many advisors you consult with. The market is going to tell you what the answer is. So get into the market. Like, not, it's fine. Yes, of course, think about it, be thoughtful, build a strategy, but really as early as you can, start testing all of your hypotheses in the market and listen. And that's also a failure mode often in mindset is founders that are blindly committed to their methodology. I want them to be very driven for their impact and outcomes, but not overly attached to the business model. Because I would say this, and this I've seen at all the startups I've ever worked with. The only thing that you know for sure about a business plan of a pre-seed startup is that it's wrong. There's no way that it is correct. It's just not possible. It's like the first airplane built is not a 747. There's no way that you're going to figure all of that out on a whiteboard. You have to test various models, optimize, iterate. So that kind of reception to feedback, willingness and eagerness to learn. There's a balance of kind of almost arrogance, like overconfidence, because you're still willing to do something that's almost impossible. So you have to believe that you're going to succeed against the odds. So there's that level, but at the same time, a real humility, because the reality is even the most successful founders are going to fail 180 times in each stage of that process. And they have to be willing to accept that failure, dust themselves off, get back up, and just keep moving again. We were laughed out of some meetings early on for MassChallenge. And I mean, there's no need to be mean as a mentor or advisor, but they were right. Like our plan was stupid. There was elements of it that were really impossible and foolish and naive. And it's hard when you're putting your heart and soul into something to have somebody laugh at it and tell you this is stupid. It's not going to work. Get out of my office. I don't want to talk to you anymore. It's hard, but you got to go back and say, all right, I think they're right. That part doesn't make sense. Let's try to fix it. So you got to have that humility as well. So all those things fall under that mentality. I think it's absolutely critical.
I have to say, we've got incredible gems from you tonight, John. I mean, from focusing on the brand versus the spokesperson, to having an unreasonable attachment to the outcome, to demonstrating the passion and articulating tangible goals and getting meetings and use of funds with specific metrics, to really my favorite. Just know that what you've already got on the whiteboard is wrong, but you're going to get it down. You're going to figure it out, and it's going to be phenomenal. So tremendous advice for all founders. I don't care if this is your first or your fifth business. Those are brilliant things to remember. I have a specific question about where you're going now. I mean, when you left MassChallenge, you went off and had to do something that you may not have done before or had to figure out along the way. How has it been as a founder, building a fund, and at the same time, while you're building that fund, building the pipeline for your new VC, Two Lanterns?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, this is why I love entrepreneurship. And I think anybody that has been a founder, it's like a disease. It's a positive disease, but it's like an infection. Once you're infected, you can't go back. I can never work for anybody else anymore. I'm not capable. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to follow instructions. I'm not capable. So, I love the challenge of going from 0 to 1. That's the most fun part for me. And so with the fund, it was a completely new challenge. Obviously, same industry. I was working with startups before, but I never invested in startups. And so I didn't know a lot of the venture financing, just the nature of a fund, the way that you go about fundraising, the challenges to overcome. I had a great network, which helped a lot. So I went shopping with a lot of people that I knew and really admired early on, and I got a lot of early support before I had the plan down, and so I could share my early ideas, and they could tell me which part was foolish and which part was smart, and give me good advice early on. So I think it's nice to have some good friends that are smart, that can give you advice while you still look dumb, so that you can look smarter by the time you expand beyond that network into outsider folks beyond that. So that was very helpful for me. Fundraising, my timing was, I think, quite good, and my network is quite good in this area. So I had raised $10 million in the first 4 months, and then COVID hit right after we announced that it's officially a fund. We've raised our 10 million and we're going to go. And that scared, it was scary at first, and a lot of money dried up because people were trying to figure out what the heck was going on.
Right.
But I think also pretty quickly, people realized, and I realized, just like as was, I think AJ alluded to previously, the parallels with the financial crisis, that the best opportunities are born out of crisis. The most successful startups tend to be born immediately surrounding a period of crisis. The highest returning funds are launched in the immediate period surrounding a crisis. So recognizing this is an opportunity, because larger corporations fall back on their heels. They're not as nimble. They can't adjust quite as quickly. And startups are very nimble. They can come in and fill in the gaps, steal market share from the big players, but also create totally new markets that are born out of the crisis. And you see it in so many different industries that have popped up, either quadrupling in size very quickly, or just becoming brand new markets, and others that have struggled. So startups are really well positioned to address that. And so we realized it was a great time. I went back out, doubled down on fundraising. We closed over 25 million on a target of 20. So I was super happy with that. Then what got tough is, having gotten some of that funding, deploying it into startups. I love talking to startups. We have, 4 or 5 pitches every day. And that's part of my favorite thing. Deploying it, but at the same time as fundraising, deploying the capital, figuring out then also how to manage and help the startups in the portfolio.
Right.
I was a lone founder at the very beginning. I brought in a second partner. I'm now bringing in a third partner starting on Monday. So finding the partners, interviewing, people, and I would say venture capitalists are not famously the nicest people on the planet. Maybe and I'm not trying to phrase that, but so encountered quite a lot of egos and difficult people, and I thought I might not find any partners, and just kept plugging away, and finally found 2 partners that I totally
Great.
adore, really smart and great. So it's been fun.
Congratulations, John. Yay. And founders, excellent questions. I know folks will be coming back to this segment of our pitch to hear that again and again. This advice has been incredible pearls of wisdom. Any last thoughts, AJ, before I pop the founders out and bring Robert in?
Yeah, I think my last thought is what John said. At times there's a lot of opportunity during crises. And that's what a lot of founders need to understand. I've spoken to so many founders during the pandemic, and a lot of them were, to be honest with you, quite down, and seemed defeated at times because there was so much uncertainty. And then I speak to other founders, and they're grabbing everything by the horns, and they're just pushing forward. And I see so much opportunity, and I'm so inspired by that. So let's keep it going, guys.